Hello chess friends, today world's top 3 super grandmasters will play against supercomputer AlphaZero. I choose Magnus Carlsen, because he is number 1 chess player and Fabiano, Aronian. Alpha have black pieces. Game rule is very simple. If a grandmaster mistakenly plays a wrong move but another player finds best move, then the computer will plays the best move. And if all player plays good move, then the computer will play whoever have the better move. And I have puzzle for you at the middle of the video, stay with me, watch the full video. And if you haven't subscribed our channel, then subscribe the channel with beautiful like and comment. Let's go. They chose to play e4. e6, French defense. d4. You can play c5 or d5. Alpha shows to play d5. You can push the pawn or take the pawn. Knight c3 or knight f3. They chose to play knight c3. Black have many lines. You can take the pawn. Bishop b4. Knight c6. Knight f6. Alpha played knight f6. e5. Knight fd7, black wants c5. My man Magnus played f4. He want to put his knight behind his pawn. Bishop d3. f5. Supporting the pawn. Castle. Try to open up the f-file. It is the long-time strategy of my Magnus. c5 by Alpha. Aronian want to put his bishop on e3, rest want knight f3. Bishop to e3 is not bad, but it's not best move. Not only dark square bishop, but you don't even know where to put the light bishop. After some moves of chess, it will be clear that where you should put your bishop. Pin your opponent's knight or put your bishop in a normal-looking square. That's why you should move your knights first, then move your bishop, because then it will be easy to understand where to place your bishop. So, knight f3 by computer. Knight c6. Bishop e3. In this position, you can play a6. b5. Bishop e7. Castle. Alpha played queen b6, which most people don't play. He targets the pawn and creating pressure on this pawn. Fabi wants bishop b5, which is not the best. They played best move bishop e2. And you can't take the free pawn, for example, if queen take pawn. Then knight b5, threatening to play knight c7, forking the king and rook. If king d8, protecting that square. Rook b1, queen takes a2, knight g5. Threatening this. And your king and queen will be very weak, king is in the middle of the board. White have very active bishops. Rook have open file and you have to make best moves, otherwise your queen will be trapped. Back to the position. We have c takes d4. Knight takes d4. Bishop c5. Knight a4. Queen a5 check. c3. Knight takes d4. Bishop takes c4. White is threatening to play knight takes c5. Knight takes c5, then b4. So, Alpha played bishop takes d4. Queen takes d4. b6. In this position, we have different choices. Fabi wants bishop d1, supporting the knight. Magnus wants rook c1. Aronian wants castle. Computer played Aronian's move because it's a better move than them. In this position, Alpha's strategy is, you can't play knight c5, because of this. Your bishop is little passive, he needs a good square. White's light square bishop is very active. And the rook needs a open file by playing f5. But f5 is not a critical move, the pawn is a permanent target of the knight. Just play castle because your pawn structure is well protected by each other. So, what is the best move? When you have a passive bishop and your opponent have active piece, then you should exchange the active piece if you can. Bishop a6. Black gets the c8 square for his rook to use the c file. But it's locked. There is something extraordinary move. If bishop takes a6. Queen takes a6. Rook c8. Then rook to c4. Targeting the queen and knight at the same time. So, they played bishop takes a6. Queen takes a6. One player wants b5 and rest want f5. f5 is not accurate because black will do castle. Even if f6. Pawn takes f6. Pawn takes pawn. Now queen's line is blocked by his own piece. King h8. Rook g8. Using open g-file in the future. Your pawn structure is well protected, king is totally fine. There is no issue with this structure. So, b3 by them. Castle. c4. b5. c takes b5. Queen takes b5. f5, but it's not the best move. Best move was rook e1. Anyway, we have queen a5. They chose to play f6, inaccuracy move. Best move was knight b2. G takes f6. E takes f6. King h8. Now the queen can't attack the king behind from his own pawn. Rook g8 is black's next move. Rook g8, creating rook battery to target the g2 pawn. And the pawn is a permanent target for the knight. And white wants to play rook c1 to play rook h3 targeting the h-pawn with supporting of your queen. So, we have rook c1. Rook g8 as aspected. Rook c3. Rook g5. They played rook h3, which is inaccuracy move because black is very fast to pressure to white. He will play rook g8 to target the pawn. And your single piece rook doesn't create any threads. You need more than two pieces to attack the opponent's weak pieces and king. And black played rook g5, he didn't played rook g6. Because this supports the pawn to moving. Black have two passed pawns. So, alpha played rook g8. Best move is to play rook g3. Rook takes g3. Pawn takes g3. Give a pawn to black. But they chose to play king h1. You can't take the pawn, for example, if you takes the pawn. Then rook takes h7 check. King takes rook, queen h4 check. And it will be a draw. It's a drawable position. Because black's king can't escape from this. White will give repeated checks. Back to the position. Alpha played rook g6. Targeting the pawn. Now, you can't take the pawn. King takes h7. Queen h4 check. King g8. Black creates a escape square for his king. They played g3, but better was to play normal move like rook c3. Rook takes pawn. Rook c8 check. Rook g8. Rook takes rook. Rook takes rook. I already told you when you have a passive piece then trade it first with your opponent's active piece. Therefore black have good structure, two connected passed pawns, black is winning anyway. But they make their rook very passive. Alpha played e5, connected passed pawns. Queen d3. e4. Queen d4. Knight e5. Queen f2. Knight f3. Knight c5. Queen b5. a4. Queen c6. Alpha put his queen to this diagonal to create some possible threats to white. The knight is very active piece. Supporting the d-pawn. Black is totally winning here. Because white's rook is very passive, knight is passive. King side light square is weak. So knight d3. Chess friends, I have a puzzle for you. This is 65 to 80 IQ puzzle. Solve the puzzle and comment me the answer, you have only 3 minutes time. Solve the puzzle after watching my video. Let's continue the game. You can't take the knight because of queen takes knight. So d4. Rook c1. Queen b7. Knight f4. Rook takes f6. Queen c2. d3. Queen c3. Knight e5. Protecting the pawn and threatening to play e3 check. So, knight g2. Queen d7. Rook h4. Rook c6. Queen b2. Rook takes c1 check. Queen takes c1. d2. Queen d1. Queen d3. Black is threatening to play e3. Knight takes pawn. Queen takes knight. Then queen e1 check. So, they sacrificed their rook, rook takes e4. And in this position, Carlsen resigned. But Aronian and Phobie still playing the game. So, Alpha played queen takes rook. Queen takes d2. Rook f5. Queen d1. Rook f2. Queen g1. Queen e2. h3. Queen f1. You can't take the queen. Because of this. King h2. Knight f3 will be checkmate. It covers that squares. So knight f4. Rook h2 check. King takes h2. Knight f3 check. King h1. Queen takes g1 mate. Don't forget to solve the puzzle I gave to you. And thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. Bye bye. Take care. See you in my next video.